Miss New Zealand, Miss Mary Wotton of Christchurch, is back after a 5-month tour which took her to Britain, Canada and the United States. She was met by her mother and Mr. John Hunt, who was president of the Royal Society of St. George when they organised the Miss New Zealand quest as part of their Aid for Britain campaign.
Mary, you've had a beautiful time. Now do tell us something about it. But before you speak, let me say on behalf of the Royal Society of St. George, we've awaited this day, and now you're here, we're so pleased.
Oh, well, Mr. Hunt, do let me say that I'm just thrilled to be back in New Zealand again. I have had a wonderful trip, but I still think New Zealand's the best country to live in. I was never so excited in all my life as I was the other night when they announced in San Francisco that they were loading the plane for New Zealand, and I was first up the gangway. I'm just glad to be home again.
During her 5-month tour, Miss Wotton travelled over 25,000 miles by air and spent most of the time in England, where she had a busy programme. Her official tour is over, but many New Zealanders want to see her again, and crowds gathered in Wellington to catch a glimpse of her as she left her hotel. People followed Miss Wotton through the city to the town hall, and again their enthusiasm made it difficult for her to get through the crowds. No overseas reception could be warmer than the welcome home given to Miss New Zealand. A guest house for Maoris visiting friends and relatives in the Rotorua hospital was opened recently by the Prime Minister. The building was sponsored by the Women's League and was named after the late Mrs. Janet Fraser, wife of the Prime Minister. Mrs. Fraser was a patroness of the League and took an active interest in the scheme. The builders presented Mr. Fraser with a clock which he immediately gave for use in the house. The guest house has accommodation for 15 and visits are restricted to 3 days. The scheme, by encouraging friends to visit patients, will make life in hospital more cheerful and homelike. With packs well filled and carrying extra weight in the way of assorted building materials, a working party of Tararua Tramping Club members makes an early morning start from the Bannister Hut near Masterton. There's a 3 or 4 hour tramp ahead of them and a hut to be built at Rotorua Flats. The one-man swing bridge over the Mangatariri stream doesn't allow much clearance for a man, plus a few sheets of corrugated aluminium. These tramping types find exhilaration in the slopes of Gentle Annie, which take them up near the 4,000-foot mark. This is good after the weekday pavement pounding. Even if it's snowing, bare legs and short shorts is the order of the day. Freedom of movement is the thing out here. Besides, who could get cold carrying half a house over the ranges? Once over the summit, the track leads steadily down out of the bush to the banks of the Waiohini River. There's no bridge here, so the party makes its way along the rocks in search of a spot to ford the fast-flowing river. Keeping balance against the strong current is a tricky business. The riverbed's rugged too. No bare feet here, and the icy water gets colder as it gets higher, or so our cameraman tells us. Over the river and up the bank into the beech forest, the hut site is reached at last. Some of the more energetic members have arrived ahead and have things well underway. Even out in the bush, the girls don't seem to be able to dodge the cooking. It'll be stew again. A plate of hot hash and a mug of tea and the pleasure of a yarn round a blazing log fire is a far cry from the cold comfort of a city weekend. It's feet on the floor first thing in the morning. There's work to be done and every hour of daylight is precious. First thing, of course, is the important business of feeding, and it's every man for himself this morning. Poached eggs here seem to acquire a size and flavour quite distinct from those in a grill room. What do you think? The working party now gets cracking on the big job. Amongst the 600-odd members of the club are skilled tradesmen and professional men, plumbers, carpenters and architects. So this job of bush carpentry is no trouble at all to them. Everybody finds something to do, even if it's just telling the others how to do it. After a day of unbounded enthusiasm and energy, the aluminium roof is finally nailed down, and the President has a few well-chosen words to say to an obviously appreciative audience. The completion of the Rotorua flat hut will provide a chain of huts in the Tararuas between Masterton and Kaitoki, and the efforts of the working members of the club will ensure shelter for members of all New Zealand tramping clubs.